David Muggs, president of the FAI, joins us. Hi, David.
Good morning.
Where are you right now?
I'm in a place called Kenilworth, which is in the middle of the UK, fondly known as the Midlands.
The Midlands. How's the weather? Have you got snow on the ground? What's going on?
Well, yesterday it was like being on the tundra, I believe, but about -1.5 all of the day, which is unusual for us. But I think it's a healthy 4 degrees now, so we might get snow again. You never know.
So rotorcraft, that's your thing. I've put a nice backdrop of a rotorcraft competition.
That
here.
is.
Do you know those?
That definitely is. I'm just trying to recognise. I must do, but yeah, I think I do. I think it's a Polish crew.
Yeah, it probably is because it was put together by Chris, our editor, so it's probably he's from Poland, so it would be. So, helicopter competitions. Tell me, for people who are watching, how do you compete in helicopters? What's it all about?
So competing in a helicopter is a skills-based competition more than anything else. There's one navigation exercise, which I sort of relate to a treasure hunt, really, but a treasure hunt under a bit of pressure. There's a requirement to make a course in time and find objects on the ground. So that's a fairly easy thing to explain to people. And there are various disciplines along the line. So there's a bag drop where you drop things on targets. Yeah, you have to get through timed gates. And eventually you have to put a skittle in a doghouse, we call it, which is, if you can imagine, a rooftop with a window in it. You've got to put a skittle on a rope through that hole. And that all sounds like great fun. And it really is, to be fair. But it does take a lot of practice and a lot of time to become proficient at it. So that's the element in the sport, I think. There are three other disciplines associated with that, all low-level skills based around hovering. A slalom, which is similar to a ski course slalom, but this time you have to put a bucket full of water on a 5-meter rope through the course. I think you've seen that in Dubai. So yeah, that's what you do, and it is really good fun, but it is taxing, and it does hone your flying skills at that type of flying skills immensely during a competition.
Yeah, the first time I saw it at the World Air Games, it was mind-blowing, the precision of the flying. There's 2 people involved, David. Obviously. Yes,
there is. There's the pilot and the crewman, as you can see in the picture behind you. Yeah, there's that, and it's Marisha, I think her name is. Marisha Mus is the pilot. She also flies a B-105 aerobatically, so that's quite something. Anyway, her crewman has a rope by the looks of things, and he may have a boat fender, a rather large one, or a bucket full of water, which he's managing through a course at speed, I hasten to add.
So 95, you started flying, you got your license?
Yes, yeah, quite some time ago now. Yeah, a long time ago. So 95 started flying, and I was associated with the Helicopter Club of Great Britain. They host the competitions, and in 2000, a guy called Jonathan. We thought we were going to do really, really well. The prerequisites were being able to fly, level, straight, hover, all those simple things, which we could do. But then we realized there was tactics and skills and things that we just didn't have. And so of a field of 30-something, we came 28.
Well, to decide to be a helicopter pilot, was that your first idea in aviation? Did you do anything else first? Or
No, that's a story. So I had models. Very long story there. So I bought a model for my father as a Christmas present, and the plan was that he could make that, and if he wanted to put an engine in it and remote control equipment, he could do, and go on to fly it. It was really, for me, it was a slightly more complex jigsaw puzzle for him. Yeah. And he did that and went on to make 32 others, all different types. But he bought a model helicopter. I remember him calling me, and I drove to Essex from where I live currently, which is about 160 miles, or I don't know, 250 kilometers, and just to go and see this thing in the garden fire up. And I was just captivated by it. So I instantly went back home, bought one, learned to fly the thing, but then progressed on to the real thing, because it was easier, to be quite honest, and cheaper. Really? Cheaper to fly. Yeah, cheaper to ride. Yeah, it is. By the time you've had a few accidents with the small ones, there's a lot of time repairing them, and the bills can become quite excessive. So a few crashes is a few hours flying time. So
yeah. How does it start with helicopter lessons? I can imagine that most people are quite familiar with aircraft lessons, and you're powering up with your flaps, but with helicopter, with the collective and the balance, where do you start?
Well, actually, it's quite straightforward. So you get in the aircraft, you're given a familiarity by an instructor, and the instructor sits next to you with dual controls, and he starts the flying from the start. He shows you the pedals, he shows you the cyclic and the collective, and the effects that each of these things have on each other, because that's where it gets difficult. Pedals on their own, you get to do that, and that's easy. The cyclic, which allows you to go forwards, backwards, and sideways, again, on its own, easy. Anybody could do it. And then the lever, which is the collective, also has the throttle on it, but that's managed. So of the two controls on that lever, you only actually have to operate one of them. The other one's automatic. And again, up and down is very easy. But then start putting more than one with the other, and you can sort of do something. All three, nigh impossible, but fortunately, it really is. You think you have two on the go, and you start to rock a little bit, and then you go up and down. But what you don't appreciate is that each one of those controls affects the other. So as soon as you lift the lever, the aircraft wants to twist. So then you have to adjust the pedals. But when you adjust the pedals, you then use more power, which means the aircraft will either drop or climb, which then has another effect on the throttle. So you don't have to lift the lever more up or down. Then you twist more. Before you know it, you're chasing it and you completely lose it. And it's a bit like riding, and I hate this analogy, but it's like riding a bicycle. The more you do it, the more proficient you become.
You get the muscle memory and
yeah, exactly, and the balance, and it is balance. And every time you get it wrong, fortunately, your instructor will catch it, and he makes it look really easy. But eventually, after a few hours, you'll find that without too much effort, you are hovering, and stationary, which is a great feeling of achievement, to be honest. In fact, just learning to hover, you could stop at that feeling you've really achieved something.
Right. Could you do that? I know people do as like gifts, a fly and try in a fixed wing. Can you do that with helicopters? If somebody's listening to this and they think, do you know what? I might want to give this a go, but they don't want to go and spend £100,000. They just want to spend a few hundred and go and try. Is that something people can do?
Yes, you can. And there were some companies a few years ago advertising that kind of concept. So you could have like a taster, which was your 20 minutes experience flight. Then you could buy a couple of hours. But if you were to buy, say, 5, which I guess would be somewhere in the region of about £1,500, you probably could be well on your way to hovering.
Really?
Yeah. Most people. I would, obviously, there's a few caveats in that, but most people of an age between, 15 and 60, 5 hours easy. Yeah.
It does start to become. That's really. I'm tempted now to.
You should.
My piggy bank and have a look. It seems like such an elite thing that an average person wouldn't do. But when you put it like that, for 5 hours, you could try, couldn't you? We could all try.
Well, the Robinson helicopter, which there is one behind you in that picture, I fly a smaller one than that, and the whole concept of that aircraft by the manufacturer, a guy called Frank Robinson, who built that aircraft, wanted to make it affordable. Now, we all think helicopters are elitist, and to some degree they are. Even to me, they're elitist. But the smaller helicopters are actually comparable with some of the more executive-style cars these days. So they're actually not a lot more money to run.
Yeah.
It's obviously whether you need one or not, or wish to have one, and whether that money is available on top of a normal car. But it just gives you some idea of the costs involved. So they're not beyond people's reach.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Well, everybody's anyway.
Yeah. Each week we're reporting on more and more companies starting up with these automated drones, personal. We spoke with the Jetson company the other week. Things are changing fast, eh?
Yeah, they are, and it is exciting, but a little bit worrying as well, particularly those that fly, because the airspace is vast. It really is vast, but unfortunately, too many aircraft all want to occupy the same part. Before we get to space is a long way, but the part that everybody wants to be in is from 500 feet to 3,000 feet, and that's light aircraft, helicopters, commercial helicopters, and now drones, which of course I appreciate they've got to happen, but it's how we manage it.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were looking at one of the drone conferences a few years ago, is how you manage that space, that U space, we're calling it, that lower level. There's a lot of intelligent people spending a lot of time trying to plan it all out, right?
Yeah, a lot of time. And yeah, they are intelligent people, but it's the coordinating, I think, is going to be the biggest concern here. Electronic conspicuity is the phrase of the moment, I think.
So competition, you started competing. You got yourself, you got a bronze at the World Helicopter Championships in 2008.
Yeah, that was in Germany, in Eisenach. Yes, that was quite a surprise, actually. It was a closely fought competition, and the hosts that year were Germany, and the medals were between the German, well, the bronze medal, should I say, was between the German, Austrian, and British crews. And we obviously got lucky. So yeah.
And then got a couple of silvers.
Yeah, that was in Russia in 2012. Yeah, that was quite interesting. Yeah, very good competition. I was 3 years after the World Air Games then, where I had a new crew, a lady called Caroline, and or Caro now, and she was a previous World Ladies Champion, and 3 years of training, and we got to a good level, a competitive level in international standards, and we were a good competition for the Russians, and we came silver in one of the individuals and silver overall in the team. So that was what effort can do for you.
Yeah. And world records, David, I think, did I see in my research 3 world records you hold?
Yeah, I've got 3 world records, which are time over a recognized course. So it's the speed between 2 points, and they're relatively easy to achieve as far as records go. They're not absolute records, but they're good fun to do, and it's something to record. It's something you've done, isn't it? So
yes,
a little bit like an addition to your logbook, if you like.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And when did you start to think that you wanted to get into the administration and governing body side of things? When did that? Was that something you've always had an idea about, or did it suddenly one day think, I can get into this and I can shape these systems?
I think I generally fall into things. I mean, it might have always been there somewhere along the line inside, but I'm not aware of it. And with competitions, I enjoyed the competitions. Once I became aware of international competition, of course, Great Britain needed a representative at FAI as delegate, and I attended as an alternate delegate. In fact, I was an observer, I think, in my first meeting, just to understand what the concept was and what it was all about. Yeah. And I always strive to do well. And for me, being in competition is not just about flying an aircraft. It's about how structured your team is, the support, the administration, everything in advance of that. So just the end product is the aircraft flying. But there's an awful lot behind that if you want to do well. If your team is not on top of it, if you're not aware of the rules, all those aspects contribute to winning. And that was part that I really wanted to get involved in and do as well as we could for the team. And so that was the start of it for me.
Then the Royal Aero Club came along. You were...
Well, prior to that, I'd become chairman of the Helicopter Club of Great Britain, which I think for me is my proudest moment. But proud because I was made even more busy than I ever was before. Right. But it's it's a good club and full of the type of characters you would call them good company. So right. so yeah, and so that was the start for me. That then put me on the council of the Royal Aero Club. And I followed a chap called Patrick Nagley, who'd been the chairman before. And I was inspired to do that. I thought it was a role I could achieve that. But it's a managerial role of an umbrella organisation. So it's not that busy for me. But it certainly was, a good thing to do. I've met many people through that in aviation, and that's something I very much enjoy. So aside of work, that's been a privilege.
And then the FAI, the World Air Sports Federation. I mean, for us, for people in aviation like we are, people who are in air sports, it's the biggest thing in the world. People outside, it's a little niche thing. But for us, it's so big. And to take over the reins, I can't imagine where you start. You must have ideas of what you want, and then what you've got to delegate and be diplomatic with many other people and organizations. It must be slowly process.
Yeah. Well, it is, and being diplomatic is something I've learned to be, I guess. And I didn't really appreciate how, because I never have been in the past, if I'm honest. It's never been a natural thing, but not for me, no. But the organisation clearly needed assistance, I guess. For me, it got to a point where there was no real direction it was heading in. We'd had a long-established management structure, and I guess, like all things, that was that chapter in its life, and there was a new story to be had, I guess. And a lot was based around finance and management of finance and administration. And my background is operational. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, and I have an electrical business. So I manage people and manage myself, and so really it was I had plenty of ideas. And fortunately, there were other willing candidates to be board members. And so you can't do it on your own. You need the right people around you. And fortunately, those people were there at the right time. And so en masse, if you like, became part of the board, and I became president. So
Brilliant.
that was last year.
Yes, yes. It must be a very proud moment from, thinking back to those first models to now, being
Actually,
where you are with it. It must be.
It's interesting. Pride's a funny concept. When you compete, I know you jump, but for me, whenever I've competed, it's all about the moment. And once you've made that moment and you've achieved that moment, it's done.
Yeah.
Then you have to move on to the next thing. You cannot wait and hang around just living on your laurels, if you like.
Right.
And it's very true. It sounds like a cliche, but I really do move on from one to the next. And so the achievement is there, sure. Being voted for at a time when you feel that you're the right person. There is a feeling of achievement, but also there's a business to run, and that comes very quickly. So whilst it is a privilege, and an honor and all those things, which it is that people put their trust in you, actually it's a job, and you've got to get on with it.
Yeah, we had a very special moment yesterday. I find myself having these moments of realization and emotion because aviation, it's quite a romantic thing that we do, and it was the award ceremony of CISM, and you've got all these soldiers from all over the world, they're receiving medals, meeting on the airfield instead of the battlefield, bringing the world together. It was a very touching moment, really was.
Yeah. And sport does bring people together that way, doesn't it? Yeah. And we talk about the fact that there's no politics in sport. Well, unfortunately, there is. But at the level that we deal in on the field of competition, there is no politics in sport. It's all the teams, all the countries get together with one goal objective, and they fight for that goal, if you like. But it's regardless of colour, race, creed, and these days, gender. You have to include that now, but it is very much a case of that. It's a level playing field, and that's what we strive for at FAI.
And we thought we were opening, it feels like we're opening up international competitions again. Everybody's getting out there, and now it feels like it's closing in again. What's happening? How are we going to help?
Yeah, we have to. I think that's a mental state. I think we have to think that it's not closing. I think we have to be positive about that, because I think, for me, we've been through that phase, and we'll still have to be cautious, of course, even at our level of managing FAI, where the next general conference is, how we'll hold it, all those sort of things. And, there are competitions planned. I was looking yesterday at the calendar, the FAI calendar. There are many Category 2 competitions planned, even over the end of December and the new year. And I'm hoping that they will be able to host those competitions and fulfill their dreams.
Well, on a final note, David, as well as an air sports fan, I'm also a bit of a space geek. And I was very excited about the Ingenuity helicopter with its opportunity to take a flight on another planet. And I've been watching it for 5-6 years, and nobody knew it was going to happen. It's on its 15th flight now. Do you, as the FAI, have any recognition of this or not?
Well, we do recognise it, but I think we have to look at where it's recognised as the most important thing. And for me, if we look at the structure of FAI, we do have a commission that's dedicated to space records. And it's something that, there are diplomas available, but we don't have a recognised record for what they've achieved, which makes it slightly difficult. However, we support the NAC, who actually is the owner of FAI, which is in this case the United States of America. It's their member that actually has managed to achieve this. And there really is, on that note, there is something for everybody with that particular feat. The fact that you can actually get something to fly, that's physics, isn't it, in that atmosphere? For me, it's the telemetry, the fact you can actually communicate with something that far away and control it. That's, we used to have bits of string with cups on that used to talk to each other with. Yeah, we've moved on a long way since then, haven't we? Yeah. So there's the achievement. But I know that the American NAC will be, I believe, nominating the group at NASA for an award to recognise that achievement. But this is something that I've noticed with FAI. We have this chicken and egg situation these days where records are being invented at quite some rate, but FAI is behind the record. We don't do firsts, but we recognise achievements that have been established. So Guinness do recognise firsts, and that's their place, and they do it very well. And it's for FAI to encourage their NACs to tell us what they plan to do in order for us to find a record to put in into the plenary in order to recognise it when it's done.
Yeah.
And that's something that is an appeal from me, really, I guess, to the members. But I'm sure that will come. It's on my list. Really
good. Really enjoyed the chat, David. It's been a really good insight into what's been going on and to find out about your career as a helicopter pilot. But I want to wish you all the best for the FAI, and I hope we have a fantastic winter and a great summer next year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a good summer next year and a relaxed winter, I hope. But,
Take care. Thanks for joining us, David.
Thank you now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.